Got to ask you right point blank, okay? Did Decker report or what? Did he report or what?
Yes. Look like you just watch the replay. You see Jared Goff talking to Decker. You see Decker running over. We discussed this on our podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast, but maybe you blame the lineman who decided to randomly like come from being a substitute to run at the referee. But this is not the first time Brad Allen and his crew have made some critical errors. So at the end of the day, I think we've all had this conversation. It feels like the refs have involved themselves a bit too much this year. Typically, we like to hear those memos of like let's tone down on all the holding calls. Let's tone down all these like frivolous offensive offside, defensive offside calls. But instead, we're making critical calls to impact the game, and especially the ineligibility type thing. Like someone reported to you and you were so confident it was the wrong person, it just doesn't make logical sense. And that's where I struggle. I struggle with how you could be so confident where all of the construct and the guardrails that are in place to make this happen were followed. But you, as an individual, took it upon yourself to say, oh no, I think the wrong guy did it. Like, I'm not the idiot. Everyone else is the idiot. So I'm going to throw a flag here. I'm going to cost a game in a league where millions of dollars is changing hands over this decision. And sure, if you're a Lions fan, you kind of low key like it. It doesn't really affect where you are in the playoff standings,
Yeah.
and it gives you this little bit of edge now. It gives Dan Campbell another enemy that he can talk about dragging out to the deep water.
Yeah, God, it was just I was watching this the whole time, and as a Giants fan, you're rooting for the Lions, and
Oh
and
yeah,
and the balls on this guy to continue to go for it over and over again. You gotta love it, and the fact that it worked, okay, and then just kind of pulled away from him, and then he, you watch the press conference after how upset and furious he is. He's worn out. He's drained. He even talked about how he had a conversation before the game. This is what we're going to use if push comes to shove. We will use this play. Like, that's what you do. So, like, I don't get it. I don't know. Look it. I don't want to be that guy with conspiracy theory, but I mean, what was it? A 5.5 spread, and if they were to make that play, 6 point difference. I
it
mean, come
also
on.
I mean it also made it a lot easier for the Rams and the Lions to beat each other in the first round of the playoffs. So you have a little Stafford Goff revenge angle.
Yeah, man.
It just to me, and you see this at every level of sports, but it's like the characteristic of the referee. I get it. You have to be a certain type of person to want to be a referee in the first part. As someone who had to volunteer and do it in youth sports, it's not a fun thing to have someone yell at you.
No.
Someone has to make that decision. Where I go wrong is like clearly there's an ego happening here because again, as a referee, you can choose to make calls and you can choose to not make calls. And the better choice is usually to let things go, let the game breathe. Maybe you catch some heat because you let something go, but you're always going to catch more heat when you throw that yellow flag. And so, yeah, I hope that the NFL, and yeah, we're seeing behind the curtain. This is Goodell saying, "Hey, we want a
Yeah.
circus, right? Why do we still have a chain gang and not lasers? Well, because that brings more drama." And I